Hey y'all, coming to you not so live from the back of a boat in the waters of British Columbia. Today I'm going to talk about something that is very appropriate for our setting, the weird and wonderful world of sea creatures. I have compiled a list of about 10 different types of creatures. We're going to start from what I think would say is not super weird to something that is pretty friggin' weird. The first thing we're going to talk about is coral. The first time we see this creature, we may not realize that we're looking at an animal. Coral is actually a creature that's more closely related to jellyfish. They congregate and form a large calcium structure, and that's the structures that we see in coral reefs. They actually have a partnership with a symbiotic algae called zooxanthellae that allows them to create energy from the sun through photosynthesis. They also help create one of the most biodiverse marine habitats, which means they create a place in the ocean that has lots and lots of different types of life. The next thing we're going to talk about is cetaceans, or what you will know as whales and dolphins. Whales and dolphins are very popular, very interesting. They are a great source of love in the world. They can be great symbols in different cultures, and they are just popular animals in general. They can be small as Maui's dolphin, called the popoto, species of Hector's dolphin, which is only about 5 feet long and 50 kilograms, or as big as the blue whale, which is 33 meters in length and 200,000 pounds. That's about the length of 2 to 3 school buses. There are some weird things about whales and dolphins though, like how their ancestors once walked on land, or that their closest relatives are hippos, or the fact that killer whales sometimes eat moose. They're incredibly intelligent. Dolphins in particular are said to be as smart as apes. They have a bigger brain than a human. They give each other names that they remember, and strangely enough, they only sleep with half their brain. Also, just in general, blowholes are weird. Can we agree that blowholes are weird? They breathe through a hole on their back. Like every other animal's like gills, or like we'll breathe through our mouths and nose. And dolphins and whales were like, nah, we're gonna breathe through a hole on our back. You do you, whales. Moving on to something that people may mix up with whales and dolphins, we're going to move on to sharks. Now there are some pretty weird species of sharks out there. The megamouth shark, what the heck? This is a filter feeder, doesn't eat fish, eats plankton. You got the goblin shark. Now this thing looks crazy. Some people call it a living fossil. It's one of the oldest sharks. Its family dates back 125 million years. That's before the dinosaurs went extinct. We have the basking shark. This is the second largest shark. Its mouth opens up to 1 meter wide. That's big enough to pretty much eat the size of a 4-year-old child. So, don't go swimming around these guys. But they don't hunt. They just eat whatever floats into their mouths. We have the Greenland shark. Now this was one that got me looking at sharks because this shark can live to be up to 400 years old. You know how crazy that is? 400 years! This is the longest living vertebrate on our planet. They have glowing parasites that live in their eyes. They eat their eyes, so the shark actually goes blind, but they think that maybe it attracts prey. They can be 24 feet long and eat polar bears. But if you eat this shark and don't prepare it properly, you're going to start feeling pretty weird because it contains so much of these strange toxic compounds that you probably shouldn't eat it. But that doesn't stop people. Some other strange sharks are the large-toothed sawfish shark. It has this long, saw-like appendage that's very sensitive. They think that's how they detect prey in the water, but they also use it to dig. You have the frilled shark. It's very rare. It has 300 backwards-facing teeth and can swallow prey that's like half their size. Can you imagine eating something that's half your size? And lastly, in our living sharks, we have the cookie cutter sharks. Now these ones are named because when they take a bite of something, it's a perfect circle. That's pretty weird. And then we all know of some of the extinct sharks. We have the megalodon, we have the whorl shark, we have the scissor-tooth shark. These are all some crazy sharks. I think a lot of people know about the megalodon because this is an extinct shark that was 4 times bigger than the great white shark, 21 meters, twice as long as the whale shark. The whale shark is the largest living shark, and in fact, it's the largest living fish. Unlike most sharks, like the megamouth shark, this is a filter feeder. It eats plankton. Moving on to another group of animals, crabs. Now, not all crabs are actually true crabs, but we're going to say if it looks like a crab, it walks like a crab, we're going to call it a crab. The arrowhead crab looks really friggin' strange. I don't know, it kind of looks like a unicorn. We have the pom-pom crab. Now this crab, it takes little anemones, and it holds them and it uses them to stun its prey. And then it kind of just looks like a cheerleader, like, woo, gonna kill you? Oh yeah. Japanese spider crab. This thing is huge. Including its legs, it is 12 feet wide. That's like 2 grown adult men. Oh my gosh. My favorite type of crabs are decorator crabs. We have some that live here in BC waters, and what they do as a form of camouflage is they will take anything that's in their environment and just start sticking it to themselves. So they'll have like, oh, see this little anemone? I'm just gonna stick that to my back. A little bit of algae, put that on my back. You know what? Now you can't see me. And now one more crab we're gonna talk about is the horseshoe crab. This is also one of those species that is known as a living fossil because it is just so strange looking. And because it hasn't really changed in about 450 million years. It has blue blood, and that blood is used by people in the medical field to test for bacteria in medical equipment to make sure that things are sterile. But it doesn't kill the animal. Alright, next group of animals we're going to move on to is the sea stars, sea cucumbers, and sea urchins, also known as echinoderms. Now, these are strange creatures. We look at them and they kind of just look pretty passive. We don't see them moving very often, but these are predators. They're going to eat meat. Now, one of the weirdest thing about sea stars is their ability to regenerate parts of their body. Now, you've probably heard about how sea stars can lose an arm and grow it back. Did you know that they'll actually throw their arm so that a predator doesn't want to eat them? I'm not going to throw my arm at anybody. I think that'd be pretty painful, but that's their strategy. And I guess it makes sense if you don't have a brain, which is the case for all of these creatures. The sea cucumber has a different strategy when it comes to escaping predators. It will literally vomit up its organs or eviscerate itself so that the predator will eat its organs instead of eating the sea cucumber itself, and it can escape, and then it will regrow some of those organs. Sometimes, not always. It's a risky strategy. Gross. None of these creatures have blood. That's weird. And if you put a sea cucumber in fresh water, it will eventually explode because they try to balance the level of salt inside and outside their body. So if you put it into water with no salt, it's going to take more and more and more water into its body until it explodes. Now we're moving on to a group of animals that I absolutely love, and this is octopus. Octopuses, octopi, many ways to say it. Now, these are incredibly intelligent animals. Definitely the most intelligent invertebrate, but it's not much to say when your competition is a clam. Some people say that these animals are almost as smart as golden retrievers, or just a dog in general. They can remember faces, they can figure out puzzles, they can escape their tanks almost always. They open jars from the inside and the outside, and they are escape artists. They can fit through any opening as long as it's bigger than their beak. Yes, they have a beak. Their intelligence might have something to do with the fact that this animal has 9 brains. What? It has one central brain, and then each one of its arms has its own brain. It also has the ability to camouflage and mimic other sea creatures that it's seen in its past. Even their eyes can camouflage. My personal favorite octopus is the giant Pacific octopus. It is my dream to see this creature. It can be up to 16 feet across. That's like 2.5 grown men. Males can be very territorial, and to make it even stranger, these animals are born the size of a grain of rice, and they only live 5 years, which means they go from super tiny to 16 feet across in 5 years. The females can lay up to 100,000 eggs at one time, and they will tend to those eggs until they die. And most of those little octopi, they're not going to make it to adulthood, but the ones that do, they're pretty cool. Alright, we're moving into some of the weirder animals. So one animal I've decided to highlight here is the frogfish. Now, this is a really weird looking animal. Kind of looks like it's walking. It doesn't swim the same way as regular fish. It's not as buoyant. It's keeps aloft more like a scuba diver than a fish. It has amazing camouflage, and it is an ambush predator, which means it hides and gulps food really, really fast. It is actually the fastest eater in the ocean. Now, many of the species have a little lure on top of their head that can look like a shrimp or some other creature to attract prey. Frogfish are actually a species of anglerfish, and when you get down deep, they get even weirder. And one extra little weird thing that has to do with them is that when they get together, the male is absorbed into the female's body for reproduction. He has served his purpose. Getting more specific, let's talk a little bit about jellyfish. Now, jellyfish are kind of weird in general. Some of them can glow in the dark. They don't have a brain. They have been known to shut down nuclear reactors by clogging them, and they can survive off peanut butter and become a peanut butter jellyfish. But one of the ones that we're going to talk about today is the Turtopsis dohrnii, also known as the immortal jellyfish. Now, this jellyfish can go back to an immature stage. It can basically go back in its life cycle. Basically, if you could go back in time and be a baby again, start living again. It could theoretically live forever, but it doesn't, because it's a jellyfish and it gets eaten by other things. It doesn't really have any defenses and has a squishy little body. But theoretically, that's pretty cool. Number 9, you may have heard about this one. It's been covered in popular culture. This is the mantis shrimp. Now, this guy looks insane. He is so colorful. Now, maybe one of the reasons why he's so colorful is because it has 16 color receptive cones. Now, doesn't mean much, but just keep in mind that humans only have 3, which lets us see all the colors we see now. If they have 16 color receptive cones, they can see way more colors than us, though they actually see in a different way than us. It's more of a scan instead of seeing everything at the same time. It's not super well understood. Now, this creature seeing the world in all its beauty, you'd think it would be all for peace, but no. This guy can throw a punch with 1,500 newtons of force. That's as fast as a gunshot from a rifle. If we could move our arm with 1/10 of the speed, we could throw a baseball into orbit. It boils the water around it. It can break aquarium glass. I don't want to get in a fight with this guy. Last but certainly not least is probably the weirdest creature I have ever heard about in the realm of the ocean, and that would be Cymatoa exigua. It's also known as the tongue-eating louse, and that name, no thanks. No thanks. So it's related to crabs and lobsters, and it is a parasite. Just like lice in your hair, this is lice in the ocean, but it's a lot bigger. What happens is it swims in through the gills of a fish. They're all male at that point, but once mature, one of them becomes a female, crawls into the fish's mouth, pierces the tongue, sucks all the blood out, and basically eats the tongue and then replaces it. So the fish then uses this parasite as its tongue, and it doesn't kill the fish. Eventually, it reproduces in the fish's mouth, and the cycle begins again. I don't know about you, but I didn't need to know that information, but I have to live with it, and now so do you. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you learned a little something. I hope you were inspired to look a little bit more into the weird underwater world surrounding us, and stay safe.